the project that probably sticks in my mind most this year is the works we did at Silvertown Tunnel. So this is the launch chamber for the TBM, which is now well underway. I think the TBM's going. In fact, I know it was because there was a fire there a few months back. So we were working for Cognition Land and Water, who were in turn working for the principal contractor, Riverlinks. And we were given quite a simple, well, sounds simple scope of works, work out how to install the props and work out how to remove the props. So the selection of the props had already been made by AESA, who were the lead designers on the scheme. They'd selected and spec'd up all of the props many months in advance, and we just had to figure out how to install them. So in some areas you had 4 deep lines of props, and there's a pair of props on the bottom 3, I think, and 3 props on the top set. Also above here that you can't see in this section is there's a permanent concrete prop that goes across the top, and then this propping was installed as the excavation was completed, and then they could put in the bottom slab. Then all these props had to come out again. Again, seems quite simple on the surface, but the tolerances were incredibly tight. Even simple tolerances of the distance between this face and this face were very, very tight, given the amount of stroke that these jacks had. They only had jacks on one end, and there was a limited amount of stroke there entirely. Very, very high tolerances required. So even 1 degree out of plumb between this face and this face meant that the props would not line up. And similarly, when you ended up with 3 props, which had to be on these massive whalers, the slightest 1 degree out on this face relative to this face, props wouldn't fit. And that's before you look at level and plumb of the whalers and everything else. So it was quite a tricky scheme for Cognition to deliver. So the first challenge was, how do you install these big whaler beams here? Now, these were quite heavy lumps, a couple of ton, these whalers either side, and they had to be installed bang on, as we've kind of alluded to here, because you had 1 prop, or you had 2 props facing this way and 1 prop facing this way. The tolerance was gone completely for installing them. So we had to get these 2 whalers in bang on plumb. We came up with this little gallows bracket that allowed for the gallows bracket to be installed, and then it had adjustment here vertically, and the whole thing could also rotate left to right, so we could get it all in and plumb, and you could pack down the bottom here to make sure that it was level. So that allowed us to put these brackets up on the wall that then allowed the whalers to be installed. That then allowed the whalers to be positioned accurately and surveyed to make sure they're in the right place, and then you could grout it all up, which just leaves the little problem of how do you get the props into place. Now, each of these props was about 11 tons in weight, so not insubstantial. And because of the big concrete beam over the top here, you couldn't just drop them in with a crane. So we came up with an idea of dropping them into these cradles and then sliding them into place. And the cradles space the props precisely to allow for them to be bolted straight into place. And hopefully this video works. I don't know if there's any swearing, so I'm just going to turn that down. I don't think there is. And there you go. You can see the cradle in place. This one isn't going on a whaler, obviously, but you still get the idea that allowed the props to be dropped straight in from above, straight onto the saddles, and then pulled into position with an excavator. And you can see there how tight the gap was. There's not much room either end of these props at all to pull this into place. And they had to match up with plates already on the walls. Easy as that. There you go, into place. And there you go, you can see the similar solution with the whalers. So you can see the whalers are sitting on the gallows brackets. You can just see the bottom one there. Can't see it on this side. They've been slid into place and have now been grouted into position. and the props, 3 props have been pushed into place. And you can see here we had a jacking arrangement that allowed the props to be jacked up to the right level, so they were rolled in low and then jacked up and bolted into position. And it all worked swimmingly on site, which is always good. And there you go, you can see as the work's progressed, you can see more of the props going in and the excavation work being carried out underneath, and you can see the big concrete permanent prop that I was talking about there above that top level of propping. Another couple of little highlights from this one was when it came to getting out the props, again, because this concrete prop blocked access for the crane, you had to come up with a way of getting them out and then being able to lift them up. We designed a little lifting beam, and you can see here again, thinking about how it's going to be built, how they're going to build it on site. We've come up with a beam that obviously has to project out past the edge of this concrete beam, but to install it, we've come up with a system where you hang a counterweight on the bottom there, and that keeps the beam hanging level, and then you can just drop it down into place and slide it into position, as you're going to see here, hopefully. And there you go, you can see it be moved into place, and then the guys can bolt this up into position, this lifting beam. And then that allowed us to, this is the last one we've got a video of here, but you get the idea. You can see the lifting beam there, another one here with hoists on. So we've picked this up, slid it out, and now the crane is coming in and has picked up the props from the lift points, and we've transferred it from the winches here and here on the lift beams onto the crane, and then it goes up and away. There you go. Now the crane's got it, and away it goes up and out of the shaft. Easy as that. But a lot of thought and engineering gone into getting us to the point where we could do that in a safe, controlled manner. And it was a very, very tight program for the guys from the Cognition Land and Water that they had to deliver against to obviously get the TBM going. There we go. Right. So Dave's payback for me dropping out of the meeting last week, was it last? No, not last week, last month, when I had a power cut, is I've now got to give his